Dressing like a man will completely change your life. So I remember when I was younger, I used to dress like a geek. All right, jeans, sneakers, like a graphic T-shirt, looking like a 10-year-old. I thought I had so much swag. Okay, I literally thought like when I was younger, like, man, this is a swaggy outfit. This is swag is like Swaggy P, like Nick Young, from NBA, and essentially, I lived for a very long time dressing like a YN, like a. Wow, I was actually about to say the hard R. I can't do that on stream. I don't think I said F slur. I think YouTube allowed that, but I don't think hard R is gonna make it by. So a YN. That's how I dressed, and I never really got female attention. In school, I did actually in like third grade. I remember this one time in third grade. I was sitting in the bus. And there was these 3 girls that were in a grade above me, and they were so obsessed with me. They would always talk to me. They would talk about me, so on and so forth. But I was kind of a dunce, so I didn't really understand. I just thought they were just like, oh, they just want to talk, right? And then I think maybe in like 5th or 6th grade, but after that I got homeschooled, so it wasn't really much outward experience with women. And generally speaking, I didn't care, quote unquote, about female attention. I did. But I said I didn't. That's basically all that means, right? And I remember, and there was one day where I had a wedding. Okay. It was my cousin's wedding. And I was like, okay, I have to dress a little nicely. And this happened to coincide just around the time where I started taking my life a little bit more seriously. So I was like, you know what? No, why don't I try this style where I dress a little bit more formally? Because it's a wedding, after all, right? I have to dress a little bit formally. It's more like a cocktail party attire. It's not like a dinner suit kind of attire. But it's like, okay, well, let me get a little fancy, quote unquote. So I got a leopard dress shirt. Now I think about it, that's the least formal thing I could have worn, but it's a button shirt, so I thought it was like, oh my god, super formal, right? And I wore these chukka boots, they're chukka boots, and I wore black slacks, right? And the outfit looked pretty good. I also had these gold bracelets, I had a necklace on, I think I had 2 of them. My hair was out, I had sunglasses on. I was feeling pretty good. I was looking at myself, I was like, I look like a celebrity. And you know what? On that day, I realized the value of dressing like a man. Okay, because even in that case, it was more like a cocktail party, like party attire, right? But even then, it was still, there's a masculine element to it. It wasn't just me wearing, like Jordans and like some gay YN outfit, but it was me wearing something substantial. And I was getting so many compliments. I was like, wow, and like I just started losing weight, so like my beautiful face started looking better, and like they would look at me differently, And then I remember, and I was 16 at the time, so my cousin's wife, who got married, was it 3 or 4? I think it was 3 or 4 friends that were coming from other states to go to the wedding. And we were at the dance floor, and we were having fun. Okay, we're dancing, whatever. And there was this girl. Okay, there was this white chick. I don't remember her name. I'll just call her Tiffany. Okay, it was actually something like Tiffany. But there's an F in it, like towards the middle. But let's call her Tiffany. She was there, and it was like 3 black girls, or 2 black girls, and 1 white girl. And they basically said, I was there at the dance floor. I was just chilling, okay? And they brought this white girl out, and they basically pushed her right in front of me, essentially. And like, she's here, and I'm here. And keep in mind, she's in like her late 20s, okay? Full-grown woman. Me, 16, and I look old. Okay, I'm 19 right now. So imagine how I looked at 16. I had facial hair back then. Fully grown, like goatee. And I think I had a mustache at the time, too. And it was just the most awkward thing ever, because I may have looked a bit more like a G, but I was still a loser, okay? So, kind of just standing in front of each other, and it was kind of like, she was a nice girl, so she was like, oh my god, this is so awkward. She was nice, we were just laughing, kind of didn't go anywhere. But I found that experience to be super funny, and I kind of went home, and I was kind of like, wow, they think I'm attractive? Wow. And to cut a long story short, this isn't necessarily a video about me just talking about my female interaction, whatever. But this is me talking about, generally speaking, the life changes you get when you start dressing like a man. I recall, I started getting even more formal. I got Henleys that were buttons. I would undo the buttons a little bit. I was starting to put on muscle. I was filling out my clothing. And you just notice that people treat you so differently. Like when you dress like a teenager YN, okay, and you look like a geek, they don't really care about you. But all of a sudden I was being stopped at random places. People were like telling me their life story and they wanted to hear things from me. They were so interested, women giving me attention, so on and so forth. And it's not just because of how I dress, I'll admit that. It's also because of how I look, right? But I was just like, wow. This has made such a difference in my life. I wish I did it before. And that's what I want you guys to understand. It seems like a big leap to dress with more. I'm not saying you have to wear like button-ups and suits, right? But just something a little bit more proper, like a polo or Henley, so on and so forth. Pop the collar, put on a necklace, so on and so forth. And some of you guys are worried about looking like geeks. I understand you're worried about looking like a geek. The thing that makes you look like a geek is when you like do it all preppy, like your mom dressed you for school. Like you put on the buttons all the way up, and you're like standing like you have a broom up your anus, and you're like a salute and whatever. Then you look like a geek. But if you just pop the collar, put on a necklace, put on like wrist bracelet, so on and so forth, get the clothes nice and fitted, you'll look good, and people will respect you, and your life's going to start to change. One of the biggest changes I made in my life is not only just taking care of my appearance more, but more specifically, dressing more like a man. Okay, because if you dress like a man, they're going to treat you like a man, and there's not many men around, so you'll be special. You're only 50 minutes late. Yeah, I just finished another video, so I actually have 2 now, so you missed all the stories, so just telling the story about man boobs you probably would have found funny.